Welcome, everybody, to our first ever video on this new channel. What do we call it? Free poker giveaway? So, my name is Alex Anthony. I've been doing YouTube for quite a while now. If you are watching this for the first time and you've never seen me before, hello, welcome. Here's Zoe. Zoe's been with me for the whole time. She is my YouTubing partner in crime, and that's why she's the logo of the channel. Or on the logo of the channel, I should say. But yeah, I made this channel as kind of a reference to my first channel, which was free Pokemon giveaway. We've been giving away Pokemon for, years now. So this is just a little bit of a play on words, and I can still use the same initials of FPG. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate that. So why am I making a poker channel, and why am I uploading today and, finally starting this? I actually made this channel about almost 2 years ago. It was July 2023 that I actually created this channel when I had the first thought of maybe I'll make a poker channel. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. And it just never quite, took. I haven't really played a lot of poker over the last couple of years. I haven't really played a lot of poker over the last, say, 15 or so years. But what I have played a lot of poker of is over the last 5 months. I've been maybe 6 months now. Back in December is when I really got kind of back into it. So I've really been deep back into it. I would say since coming back, I have played, of live, I think let me see for my tracking, if I can remember correctly, I'm somewhere just under 300 hours on the year. I know, not a lot, but still. But I've also played a lot online too. On this site, we have almost 8,000 hands. We also played a lot on Ignition as well. So, we've been doing quite a bit of poker stuff, getting back into the whole swing of it. And I've always loved poker, and I've always felt like I could help the beginner, rookie, maybe even novice, and maybe even some intermediate players get better, because there's some things that I can do that can help some people and can talk about that can help some people. But I am by no means an expert player. I am a winning player, but I am not, a huge crusher. But I would say an okay. But that's the thing about poker, is you don't really need to be a genius to be able to provide value to somebody. There's people whose vlogs I watch who are very new to poker, and just hearing them talk about the game helps me think about the game. A, hearing a different perspective, knowing what maybe some of my opponents will be talking about, and then B, once again, just the perspective itself I find very helpful. So hopefully you guys can find some value in that here. But this video today is not really about me and about the channel. It's more so about Club WPT Gold, and that's kind of why I am making this channel right now. Why now? It's because of this site right now. And there's really a few, we'll say there's 2 videos that have made me want to make this video and kind of start this whole thing off. The initial one, I would say, was shout out to Bart Hansen. Been following Bart for years now, and just super cool dude. I say that like I know him. You feel like you do when you've heard someone talk for tens of, if not hundreds of hours. You do kind of feel like you know the person in a way, even if they don't know you. But he was talking about Club WPT and how it was very similar to how I felt, where it not represents, but it can resemble, or at least it did before multi-tabling was introduced a couple days ago, which was something that he talked about. But basically, when it was a single tabling only site, it felt very live. It felt like a lot of live games. And it's got the straddle, you got the ante, which is not a live thing really, but that's it's different. It changes the structure up. Whereas for the last 2 decades plus, if you played online cash game poker, 99% of the time, be it full ring, 6-max, fast fold, whatever the format was, you played a 2 blind, no ante structure. That's just how it was. That's just the format of poker. That's just kind of what it was. And then coin poker came around, I don't know if it was a couple years ago, a year ago. I know its popularity started to rise over the last year, or I guess a year or two, I don't know. But coin poker, they have their ante tables, and that really introduced a new dynamic in the online element from what I was used to. I don't know what other sites, have ante tables. This is just from my perspective, I'm not trying to speak as an authority to what's been going on in online poker. This is just how I've perceived it loosely from the, kind of on the outside. So those ante games are, very different because they change your ranges quite a bit. And oops, I'm not buying it here. And I just wanted to have a little poker on for the background of the video. And those games are definitely interesting in that you have to play much wider ranges, and they can be much more aggressive as a result. But that really led us to what we have here, which is some really weird structures on Club WPT. But why is Club WPT such a cool site and good to play on and this and that? It's because the players are so bad. The players are really, really bad. And it's really cool to actually have a site where you can have some soft competition. That's why live poker is still so good, is because the players are still very lower level. I mean, when you're on the computer and you're on the internet and you're near a lot of things. I don't know how else to word it. Look at my desktop right now. You can see I got GTO Wizard. It's not open obviously because I have my site open. I never have them both open at the same time because you never want to, but it's right here. here. It's a click away. It's a click away. Whereas when you are in person, like even on your phone, GTO, it's not the same. It's not as good. You know, like you really want the desktop experience for clicking and for, you know, adjusting things to make it so you can like fly through the, you know, the simulations and actually gain from it. So you're just a click away is basically my point. And it's very easy to use these resources when you are wanting to study, you know, when you're just hanging out and you're around. But when you're live at the casino, the GTO is just, it's far away. You know, people in that realm, they don't use tools like this. You know, what else am I close to? I'm close to YouTube. What else am I close to? I'm close to Crush Live Poker. I'm an elite subscriber of Crush Live Poker. Anytime I want to go on there and take one, like the next course in the, you know, course that I'm doing, or watch another video or listen to a podcast, it's one click away. Anytime I want to go on YouTube and listen to Bart break down a hand, it's one click away. Anytime I want to listen to Hungry Horse break down a hand, it's one click away. Any of these people, you know, like I listen to so many people that I, you know, recommend, like say, like Pete Clark or Sal Costa or, see who's another lot, or Jonathan Little, you know, like all these people who I've just like picked up things from over the years, and I will just continue to kind of put them on at a whim because they're on the internet and they're here and they're on my phone and they're here when I'm chilling and they're here when I'm playing the game. But when you are live, like when you're IRL, you're just in a different world. You know, you are in a completely different world. I mean, just the echo chambers that can be Twitter, that can be Reddit, that can be Facebook are so ridiculous and so different to how humans actually behave in the real world. That is the same thing for poker as well. People behave in a much different manner in poker IRL than they do online, except on this site. On this site, you will find some people who are just as bad as in real life. Why that is, I'm not entirely sure yet. I think it's probably a lot of it because of how bare bones and frankly poor the site is for, like, you know, we're talking two sites back to back. Coin Poker may be the single best poker client I've ever used in my entire life for the amount of options they have, for the way that the software works, just the customized, like just like built in, like you have so many different table skins and the card colors and the way that the chips look, like the chips are all look so cool. Like I always like how chips, when the chips in the table, say like the party poker days, you know, when they actually represent chips, like right now if you look at this table right here, you only ever see a little stack of 3 chips, you know, 3 chips for $1, 3 chips for $2, 3 chips for $4, and it's the same little thing. And if you do a tournament, they're just 3 different colors, red, white, and blue. Whereas on Coin Poker, each chip is in the stack. So if you bet, you know, a really obscure amount, your chip stack looks huge and cool and crazy. And I always thought that was just a nice little feature. And I mentioned Party Poker because that was the first time I ever seen that, you know, type of thing. But they've been out of our legislation for quite a bit now. But Coin Poker has all the nice little things that I like personally. I think you can run it twice on there. I believe they have straddle tables on there as well, like, you know, like true straddle tables. Like this club WPT, they call it a straddle, but it's not a straddle, in my opinion. It is I mean, if you can call it one of two things. You can call it a forced mandatory straddle, which fine, sure, semantics at that point, or it's just a 3-blind structure. And the difference is, like, why am I splitting hairs here, is because to me, at least, and I guess I could technically be wrong, but a straddle, at least in the live feel, always has an option behind it. Like, it's the choice whether to straddle or not. Whereas in this game, it's as if you sat down at the table and everyone said, hey, we are straddling, and if you don't straddle, you got to get up. Like, that's basically what the meta is on these tables. So I don't look at this as a straddle table, even though they call it the straddle. I just look at it as a 3-blind structure. It is a small, medium, and big blind. I personally call the straddle the big blind when I play these games. I know that when you're talking to the solver and when you're talking to other people, you know, that's not how everyone looks at it. Like on the solver, they look at it as a big blind and a straddle. So, you know, this would be considered, you know, on a 1-2-4 game, this $412 stack here would be considered roughly a 206 big blind stack. Whereas I look at it as what I hope most of you look at it as is a 103 big blind stack, because it's 103x the current bet, which was forced blind before the flop. The blind part is the important part. You know, if you can't look at the cards before you put your bet out, and that's the first active bet, and it's live on top of that, not a blind raise, it's actually live. Like if you call it and the person still has an option, that is just a big blind to me. And this is a 3-blind structure. Cool. You know, and on top of that, we also have the ante, which we'll, you know, talk about how that impacts things as well. But I think that is like, after all that's said and done, I just want to say that this may actually be one of my favorite formats ever. This is an incredible structure because of the amount of hands that you are not only allowed to play, but are frankly forced to play. And I think that people simply don't adjust properly enough for it. I mean, you've got some people here who are playing unbelievably loose, and then some people who are, I think the people who are playing the best on the site are probably the ones who have found a way to play like a 26-20 type style. Like if you see stats like that for 8-handed, like I think 26-20 is probably probably pretty much like you're 3-betting enough, you're 4-betting enough, you are raising enough, you're calling opens often enough, because notice I said 26-20, so there's still that little gap, you know, like there is some calls and some over limps built into a strategy like that. To me, that is going to be a pretty solid strategy. I have a very tight strategy right now. Tight set of stats. I think my stats right now are like 21-14, something like that. I mean, at one point they were like 25-17, and then they've just gotten lower and lower and lower. And it's mostly because I game select like crazy, and I'm always at a table that has like a 50, a 60, 70% VPIP guy, someone who's playing every single hand. And often there's a lot of 3-betting on my tables. There's often a lot of just decisions where you're going to have a very small SPR, stack to pot ratio, and you're going to want a strong hand to just kind of get it in with. You know, you can't even hope for things as good as, you know, 2-pair plus. Really, you're just looking for good pairs to get it in with, and, you know, maybe good semi bluffs to shove with. But a huge portion of my strategy that you guys are going to see here on this channel is really just value betting thin. Like, the time when I lose money bluffing, so to speak, is like not really bluffing. It's more when I just value own myself. Like, I really value own myself. Like, I don't really raw bluff against a lot of these players very often because of how call oriented they are. I mean, sure, sometimes you're going to get the perfect run out. You know, what's the perfect run out? Say it's like you raise before the flop on, say, under the gun, and they call from the big blind, and then the flop is like, I don't know, call it like deuce deuce 3. You know, that's pretty hard to hit unless you have specifically deuces or 3s. And, you know, check, bet, they call, turn is a jack, or say it's a queen. Say it's a queen, and they check, you bet again, they call, river's an ace, they check, like, you've got queen X, you've got ace X, you've got so many things in there that you can represent that's like a standard 3-barrel bluff line that, like, you should probably take against like literally almost anybody. But those spots don't really come up that often because they are not, you know, poker's not so generous where it's going to give you the perfect hand to bluff with. You know, normally the boards are more like, you know, 10-8-3, where they could have any number of things, and then the scare cards don't always come, and, you know, people will call you down with 8x in some situations if your line doesn't make sense. So that's why I try to value bet like crazy with 10x in those situations, because people will not give you credit, and, you know, they will call you down like crazy. And I've had a lot of success doing that, honestly. Like, value betting incredibly thin, over betting incredibly thin for value, and as a bluff, semi bluff. I like to semi bluff over bet, and I like to over bet value bet a lot. I won't really pure bluff over bet a ton unless I just think it's going to work straight up. But, you know, once again, a lot of these players are very call oriented. I don't try to put that strategy out there. I think that it's best to save those lines against when you are keenly aware that you are up against a thinking player, and that you can represent something that they will then fold to, you know, that they'll fold their medium strength hand to. But yeah, today I wanted to just give a brief breakdown of why I think the site is so good and why I think that you should play on it. Oh, and then there's the second video. I didn't really mention it. But Doug Polk put up a video, I think just yesterday, honestly, about this site, and it's kind of like, you know, the subtleties and the nuances and like a lot of stuff that I'm talking about today. But he only made it 9 minutes, and then he was like, all right, come on over to Upswing and watch the rest of it. And I'm just like, you know, like I mentioned, I'm kind of deep into all this poker stuff, but I wasn't so turned on by that move. I thought that was a little, you know, like what's, you know, bait and switch type deal. Like, I thought, you know, like that didn't make me be like, oh yeah, now I really want to go to your site. Give some more for free, bro. Give away some, you know, give some content, man. Like, I mean, sure, you did your heads up thing last month and you lost all your money doing that, but like, so I mean, I know you did free content and you're going to try and give that money away, but people will actually benefit from this. Like, I don't think a lot of people are going to really benefit from watching Doug Polk play, what was it, like 2040, or sorry, 1020 or 2550 or whatever he was playing. No, he was playing bigger than that, heads up. I remember him with like a 4,000 stack, I think, you know, a lot. So what's that, 2040? But I thought it was 2550. Either way, it was fun to watch, but, you know, most people are playing not even these stakes. You know, 124 is kind of high. I don't play 124. I play the 20, $50, $1 games. That's like the primary game that I've played, and then a little bit of the 50-cent 1-2 games. And then I think I've played this game a little bit, you know, the 124, and I don't think I've played the 248 yet. The 248 is a pretty big game. 248 is a pretty large game. I was thinking about it, you know, I was doing the math yesterday, and 248 is equivalent to, if you were to play live, 10, 10, 10, basically. Because if you count the if you count the 2 times 8 people for the ante, that's $16. And then the 248 blinds is 14. 14 plus 16 is 30. So 30 plus, you know, would be the same as 10, 10, 10. The amount of money that's in blind before the flop is kind of like, you know, as you can get a theme as to how I like to look at things. So, you know, right here on this table, you've got, was it 15 it says? Yeah, 15. That makes sense. You know, so that's like I look at, you know, then you divide that by your stack, and that's, you know, that's the SPR. So some of these games you start with a pretty small SPR because of the ante. some of these games being on Club WPT over here, Club Dub as I like to call it, Club Dubs. But yeah, on Club Dub you actually play with like an incredibly short stack, how I would like to consider it. Whip out the calculator here. So you only play with, I think, I was doing the math yesterday. It's something like this. So we'll do the math right here for this 1-2-4 game. There's 15 in the middle before the flop. Sorry, so you start with a $400 stack, and there's 15 in the middle before the flop. So that means that you start with an SPR of 26.666. Like that's not a lot. Say for some reason, why does this seem so? I think because the game I play, it's not quite one. Yeah, I play in the 0.2, 0.5 one game, so it's a little bit, I get a little bit deeper of an SPR. It's 3.3 on mine. It's like 330 is in before the flop, so it's 100 divided by 330. So I have an SPR of 30.3 to work with. They only get 26. That's even worse. And just to put into reference, like what we were talking about before, like say you're playing like a typical game, back in the day. So you're playing just 1-2. That means that there's $3 in the pot. You buy it for $200. What's that? That's like 66.7. You divide it by the 3, and so like that's over double the SPR in just a standard 100 big blind 2 blind structure. But when you add in the third blind and then you add in the antes, you've now cut the stacks down over in half. And this matters a lot, especially for how you're playing a lot of your ranges. It greatly impacts, like, I mean, I'm not gonna whip open Wizard right now. That's a different video for a different day. But trust me, the ranges are crazy. Like say the first position that you can open here, call it under the gun. Whereas if you were playing in a 2 blind structure, 1-2, you'd call it under the gun +1, or whatever the hell you want to call it. It doesn't matter. Middle position +1 doesn't make any difference to me. But the same seat, I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, say you want to min raise as your standard open size, which is one of my favorite open sizes. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff later too. But I think you can open something like 19.4% of hands with the ante and all this stuff here, in the straddle. But if you're playing in a 2 blind structure, you can only open like 14 or so percent hands. Like you lose like 25% of your total hands. So it's actually crazy how much tighter you have to play when you don't have all the extra money in. And sometimes people can think about it in the opposite manner. I know I've thought about it in the wrong manner before, where I see so much money out there and I'm like, oh, well, let me increase my raise size, because there's so much more money out there. That's why the reason why I like min so much is because it's an incredible value. You raise to 4 big blinds, 2 straddles, and you can win so much more than if you raise to min at a smaller game. So, but people don't adjust their ranges accordingly due to that. Like they don't really factor in how much money is truly out there and defend wider. They play the same ranges overall. So that's why I feel like you can actually exploit a lot by just kind of understanding the mechanics of how these anti/straddle games work. I thought that I would try to give a little bit more for free. Obviously, I'm not going to charge for anything because I don't think that my stuff is really worth charging for. Of course, Doug is someone who can charge for all of his brilliance and all of the work that he's put into the game. But like I said, I'm more of like a step above a beginner and like a novice intermediate. I have been playing poker for a while and I do have a fair bit of experience, so I can just explain things in a way that someone who doesn't understand the game as well, would maybe benefit to hear. So that's where my channel focus is going to be mainly. But yeah, I wanted to basically get on Club WPT before the bubble bursts, and there's just not a lot more money to be made. Right now, you still can make a decent bit of cash, I would say, even though multi-tabling is around and available. But it's probably not going to be the site that it was a few months ago, a few months from now. It's going to go further down. I have heard things about how the rest of the world site, Global Club, WPT Global, has like almost like tier lists or like matchmaking in a way for players who win money, so to speak, or for players who lose money. So you may not even see the same player pool worth of players. I'm not sure if that's how it works on Gold over here for us, but yeah. I don't know how much longer, like basically my point about that is I don't know what they can do aside from, they have a 4-table restriction, so you can only play 4 tables, only. And this is not the easiest site to multi-table on. I was trying to play 4 tables, and while I can, it's never comfortable and it's never really fun, and hotkeys don't work on this site. And yeah, like I'd have to get literally my own hotkeys, like old school, screen scraping stuff. Like I don't want to mess with that. I'd rather have something that just works like Jirogen down here that works with everything, and I want it to work with this basically. So I'm waiting for that to kind of catch up. If that catches up, then multi-tabling in here will be way easier, and the pros will get better, the for-profit players will get better, and it'll be much harder to play on here because all the fish are going to get eaten up much easier. So I think basically the message of this is get in while it's good, get in while it's still profitable, and don't be afraid to get off too. Don't be afraid to hop off. Like for example, I'm hopping off Ignition I still have a little bit of money on there, but I don't play on there nearly as much as I used to. I have this site now and I play in live, more more often, and I have coin poker if I really want to challenge myself. The reason why I don't really play coin poker as well, by the way, is because I feel like everyone on coin poker is like not everyone, but if you're gonna play anything above like micro stakes, you're gonna play good players. You're gonna play good players. Like you go to coin poker if you want to challenge yourself for sure. It's almost like you could pay for coaching or you could pay for that kind of experience. Playing the GTO wizard bot is only so good because it's once again a bot, and it only puts you in so many situations that are actually interesting. But playing against humans, you can actually have that little layer of maybe they're tilting, maybe this, maybe that, try to read their timing, whatever, their sizing. But overall, the players on coin poker, I don't want nothing to do with them, bro. I don't want nothing to do with them compared to this site. They're once again, they're good to spar with. They're good to to stay sharp with. But if you're trying to make money, no, not on coin poker. Not on coin poker. Not for me, at least. I'm not that skilled of a player. I'm skilled enough to be able to recognize when bad players are playing bad and to protect myself from the good players, but I'm not good enough to exploit like some really solid players, honestly. Maybe someday. And maybe as my knowledge of theory deepens, I'll feel more comfortable being able to just go in being unexploitable myself. But I don't like to really play that way. I like to once again play in an exploitative manner. I like knowing the GTO baselines, but then finding leaks in my opponent's game and then deriving a maximum exploitative solution to punish that without them adjusting in a way, without doing it in a way that forces them to adjust. So I know it's a whole mouthful of, what I base my strategy on, but take it or leave it. So trying to think of like some nuggets to leave this episode or video with, because we're going to be getting into like that 20-30 minute range, and most of my videos for this site or for this channel are going to be very short. I'm going to try to keep it like the 8 to 12 15 minute range. Just going to talk maybe 1 or 2 hands of video. Maybe we'll make some shorts and that kind of thing, because once again, I do play a lot online and that's great for content, and I do play a lot live, and I've actually got a pretty good way of keeping track of my hands live. I mean, I'm not going to name any names. There's some apps out there that claim to be very good at keeping track of stuff live. I am very sure that my methods are much better, and I will use some of the live data that I acquire to talk about some hands as well on the channel. I'm not going to film vlog type stuff just because I find that to be really awkward. I have recorded some of my hands at the bike in the past, like, maybe a few years ago, like around the pandemic time. I was recording some of my hands just to see if I could, just for the fun of it. But honestly, it's a pain in the butt. I like having my phone for other things. I just, in a way, don't want to film a bunch of people without A, telling them, and B, asking for their permission either. I don't want to infringe on someone's privacy, even though we are in a public type setting. And I also don't want to be the person to be like, hey guys, by the way, just so you all know I'm filming this. It's like, no, like if someone sees me at the casino and they know that I make strategy videos because they've seen this channel, that's one thing. But I don't want someone to be on one of my videos and like not be happy because of it. Like, I have shout out to the homie Andrew. What up, brother? He's gonna be coming over next week, and we're gonna do like a podcast style episode where we just kind of talk poker. We'll talk poker for like, I don't know, half hour, 2 hours, however long we want to talk poker for. And that's just gonna be what we do for that day. But that's because he wants to come over, and I've asked him, and I've asked other people if they want to sit down and talk poker. I thought that a good name for a podcast would be Deal Me In. Deal Me In, because that's all you ever hear when people are coming back from like, getting their drink or running from the bathroom. Deal me in, So I thought that'd be a fun name for a podcast, the Deal Me In podcast. But Andrew might be my first guest. We'll see how that goes next week. But yeah, I'm going to take some hands from this site and hands from live in general, and then from, other various sources, like streams or, maybe other vloggers or other players who vlog, I'll say other content creators, because this is not a vlog, because I think the vlog, you got to have the phone in the casino, and like that's the difference between a vlogger and what I'm doing. I'm just creating poker content, whereas those people are actually like, I don't have any intention of actually like, filming myself at the casino. I just find that whole thing to be very awkward. I'm not gonna lie. I'm also a very in the moment person when I'm out of the house. Like, I do not want to live through my device. Like when I use my devices, I actually have my iPad and my iPhone with me at the poker table recently, it's a newer thing. The iPhone's always been with me, but to keep track of things, I'll break down how I keep track of things once again in a later episode. But yeah, I just think it's very important to keep track of pretty much everything that happens live. Like not only your results, but your a lot of your decisions and a lot of your hands and a lot of your stuff, because right now what I'm doing is something I've always done, is record my sessions. If you guys play online, if you guys play in Club WPT, get a screen recorder, get a screen capture. If you play on your phone, they make them for those too. Find something to capture your screen, okay? You want this data. You want to be able to study this later. You want to be able to see timing. You want to be able to see sizing. You want to be able to see the exact board, and it's hard to remember this kind of stuff. So record it, and then you can go back to it later. I have every hand that I've played on this site recorded through video, and I can reference it at any point in time if I want to. I actually don't know if it's every single hand. No, because there's a few hands that I played on my iPad that I didn't record. But every hand that I played on my desktop, I have if you guys think I'm joking, here, I just had to do a file dump for, for May to get my files, just to get more room on my hard drive. And this wasn't even the last file dump I did. I did one, in April, too, that had a lot of poker stuff in here as well. So this is just every session I play, I will record. Yes, it can take a lot of data. I have I have 2 external hard drives. I have 3, but one of them's in my storage unit. But I have a 16 terabyte external hard drive. Costs a couple $100, and it's like that way I don't have to worry about anything. You know, I've already filled up the 5 terabyte external, so I figured we'll go with the 16 the next time. So we just do it, just do it. And if you don't need it, then you can delete it later. But it's nice to have. It's nice to have. I know that may seem crazy, but honestly, that's half of the reason why I do that is because I do create content, and it's nice to have my clips for content. But even before I was creating content, I saved all my games for if I played Fortnite and I got a cool clip, if I played Halo, got a cool clip, if I played poker and got a cool hand, I saved it all. I've been recording poker for a long time. Here real quick, this is on my Pokemon channel, FPG. I have privated these videos because I basically turned that channel into a Pokemon channel, but this was basically just my main channel for a long time, and I didn't really understand how YouTube worked. But as you can see, all the way back in April 6th of 2012, I was making poker videos. I was making poker content. So this is something that I promise you I've been doing for a long time. Whether or not I wanted to actually use the content, I would always record every hand. So trust me, I think it's a very valuable thing to do. I should have done this, man. Look at this. I got a couple thousand views on some of these videos, man, from way back when. I should have stuck with this. But you know what? At that time, the games were much more difficult, and it just wasn't in my heart post Black Friday. Post Black Friday took a lot out of my soul. Look at this, April 9th, 2012. It's basically exactly 1 year after Black Friday. So we've been in it, folks. We've been in it. Trust me. But the reason why I am here today is because I think it's a good time to be in poker. Okay, we'll end it with that. It's a great time to be in poker. If you want to learn the game, if you want to make some money from the game, if you want to just have some fun. If you just want to have some fun, poker can be a very fun game. The most fun I've ever had playing poker is through some home games. So get yourself some friends together and just play some cards, honestly. And then if you want to actually make some money, go to casino. Go online like this, and learn how to do some stuff. And if you want to learn some strategies, that's what I'm here for. So stick around with the channel. I know this is just the first video, but I'm going to be posting hands, theory, strategy, maybe some general news. For example, last week was the $1 Million Cash game at Hustler Casino Live. So not the most hype $1 million game in the world, but it had some incredible moments, some really cool bluffs, some really cool hands that I'd love to talk about, and just things in general. So we'll end with that, and I just want to say thank you to anyone who made it this far. Y'all the absolute best. Love you all tremendously. I say that at the end of all my videos, but I really wanted to emphasize that if you watch my videos, guys, I really, really do love you. It's not a huge thing for me to say to somebody. I know it's the biggest thing in the world for some people to say, but hopefully, if no one else told you that they loved you today, you heard it here first. And make sure you love yourself as well. Remind yourself that you love yourself. Even if you don't, tell yourself you do until you do, okay? That's a big thing in life. This is poker, and this is life, and there's a lot of things in here that kind of intertwine and correlate. So you may get some of that, off-the-wall, hippy-dippy stuff every once in a while. So hopefully that's okay. Love you all once again, and we'll see you soon. All right, bye-bye.